Good afternoon. It is Friday. I am so glad it's Friday. How are you today? Welcome, welcome. Good afternoon, ladies. Sorry, I've got sun shining down on me, so I've got crazy shadows. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming in. I have been pondering the Mommy Scopes Birth Story Challenge since I first heard it issued. For me, the birth story challenge is a little bit more difficult than the marriage challenge was. Not because I haven't given birth. I've given birth seven wonderful times, and I have amazing birth stories to go along with each one of them. But it really it gives me a lot to think about when I hear about women sharing birth stories. Because I think that it becomes a loaded and emotionally charged thing. So, I am Lisa. I am the blogger behind CreativLEI.com, where I share more stories about our family and how we do life. The title of my blog is Looking at Life Creatively. I'm an artist, a mom of many, a stay-at-home wife, and homeschooling mom of some. Some of my children are returning to public school this fall. And I have been a fan and follower of Mommy Scopes since Amy of Polka Dots Wishes has started them, and I love the little offshoot challenges that are coming off the group. So I wanted to share my heart, and hopefully this will be a kind of quick scope because we're in the middle of cleaning the homeschool craft room. But I wanted to go ahead and take up the challenge before the next one was issued. And so I'll give you a little bit of backstory. We have had 7 children. My first was kind of a standard, typical hospital birth. I had done childbirth prep classes, but first time around, nothing ever really prepares you for what that's truly going to be like. So, although I went into it with a mindset of having a natural birth, one thing led to another. I did request an epidural and got that, and then I needed Pitocin to speed up contractions, and then I needed to step back on the Pitocin because we were having blood pressure issues for me and my son. But he was born without complications, and he's fine. And then just under 2 years later, we were giving birth to our second child, and we wanted things to go a little bit differently. We wanted a little more ownership of the birth experience. We were not first-time parents anymore, so we thought, we want to look into, what we don't want the doctors to just rush in and tell us what needs to be done. We want to understand what's going on through the whole process. And so I studied Bradley birth, and we kind of took it from there. I'm going to try and close these blinds, so maybe that will not be quite so bad. How's that? So we studied Bradley birth, and we went in. I had a hospital birth. I was in the military at the time, so I was back down at the Navy hospital, and he was born super fast once we got there, because once I understood a little more about the physiology of birth, I was able to stay home and labor at home. So he was born at the hospital, no complications, natural birth, and very, very few interventions. We had an awesome, amazing nurse by our side during that labor and delivery. And shortly after that, we were pregnant for the third baby. And I was processing out of the military, so we had options. We could go to the local hospital, or I could stay at the Navy facility if I wanted to. We wanted to go to something closer to home, so I wanted to try the Baltimore Birth Center. However, the birth center had closed down about a year before I was looking to use their services. And so I was recommended a name from a certified nurse midwife that used to work at the Baltimore Birth Center, that now practiced on her own. Interviewed her, and it was good, and we went ahead and we planned a home birth for our third child. And she was born without complications about 10 minutes before the midwife would even arrive. And that was our kind of diving into that birth outside the hospital. And then we had another little girl at home without complication. And then but that time the midwife was there, the midwife and the assistant. And then we had another little boy at home, and he was born before the midwife got there, but we had a photographer there. And then we had another little girl whose labor and pregnancy were all perfect, but the handling of her birth was mishandled. We later found out that my midwife, although she was a certified nurse midwife, she was practicing negligently. She was ignoring a lot of the medical training that she had and had embraced the trust birth movement. And so when my daughter entered into respiratory distress, all the proper newborn neonatal resuscitation protocol was not followed to the T. My daughter was transferred to the hospital, who accepted us very well and very kindly. And although my daughter was put on life support, she did not survive off life support. But never once did we, oh, thank you. Never once did we receive any judgment from the facility that we were at 3 hospital facilities. And they were supportive of us the whole time. It was absolutely amazing. It was quite the opposite that everyone from the home birthing community had told us, that, you know, people were going to be looking down on us and they wouldn't treat us kindly. We experienced the opposite. We were key players in Miranda's care at the hospital that she was at. And my midwife, who I had trusted and used for 7 years, never stepped foot in the hospital to visit us. And so it was a complete changing of perspective. And it's one of the reasons why I really hold back from sharing birth stories now, because I used to be one of those people who enjoyed reading them and looking into them, and I loved the good squishy baby birth stories. And when I would hear about the bad stuff, I lived in this bubble, you know, truly believing that it would never happen to me. You know, I had healthy babies, I had healthy pregnancies, I saw a certified nurse midwife. We lived only 5 minutes from the hospital. We were doing everything right. And I kind of shudder at how I probably made some women feel really poorly about the decisions that they made for their birth choices. And so I've been humbled because of our experiences and how God has graciously given us space and healing where we are. It has humbled me to keep quiet in a lot of ways. And then our 7th little baby was born in the hospital, an elective induction by choice. And she was a Pitocin induction, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely wonderful. I wouldn't trade it for a thing. I'm so glad that it went exactly how I wanted. I actually went back to the facility that took care of Miranda, where she was on life support, because we were familiar with doctors and nurses that are there, and they worked amazingly. We had people come in and visit that had known us from Miranda's stay, which was great. It was kind of coming full circle throughout the whole process. My little one's picking my flowers. And my last one, although she was hospital born, she was actually born before the doctor got into the room. It was just us and the nurse, and she was born in the call, which means that the water didn't actually break until after she was born. She was born within the sac, which was kind of neat that that would happen at my final hospital birth. And so I had the nurses come up to me for the days after that, saying that they would never forget the look of my smile and the sound of my laughter as Annalise came out, you know, crying and pink and all wonderful. And so that's my birth stories. But I just wanted to really encourage women, because I know that there's a lot of women that walk around very dissatisfied with their birth stories. And my word of encouragement is to not let one day define you. The birth of your child does not define you as a mother. And it's how you raise the child, the child's entire life. It's not, you can't sum it up in one day. And so it breaks my heart that women are grieving a day when they still have a lifetime. And so my encouragement to you would be to embrace the days that you have. Don't look back at the one that you regret. Embrace the days that you have and move forward. It's one thing that I've kind of been intentional to do, and I just want to encourage others to do the same. And that's all I have. If you have any questions for me, I would be more than happy to answer them. I am actually in a very good place for talking about our story. I actually just shared a post on my site today talking about grief and gardening, and how God ministers to me sometimes when I'm in the garden or in unexpected places. And it's been an interesting journey along the, oh, thank you, Taylor. It's been an interesting journey along the whole grief path, and the beauty that comes from embracing it and moving forward with it instead of dwelling on one day. Instead of dwelling on one day, we look forward. We look forward to a glorious reunion. And for those of you that have birth stories that you feel like you don't want to share because something didn't go the way that you wanted to, I get that. I really do. But again, don't let that one day define you, because it's not the end of you. It was just the beginning. And I want to encourage you to keep moving forward and just living those days. I want to thank you all for tuning in. If you've just caught on, I shared a bit about our birth stories and how we've gone full circle through the gamut of birth experiences. Thank you. And that is my final encouragement to women, is to not be defined by the one day, because that's not where you want to stay. The birth story may have been how that child entered the world or how you became a mother, but it's not the end of the story. It's only the beginning. So just encourage you all to embrace it and move forward, and have a great weekend. I can't wait to see more of your scopes, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.